We're gathered here today in honor of those who laid down their lives in the year-long struggle to fight for their rights and beliefs. Their will and resolve was tested every day along the way, but they remained steadfast in their fight for justice and came out victorious at the end. Of course, I'm talking about the largest farmers' protest in the history of the world that concluded with the Indian government repealing the 3 controversial laws that would have left our small farmers open to exploitation and ruined their livelihood. This victory can be defined as a victory of resilience and patience over oppression. I would like to congratulate our farmer brothers and sisters in India and everyone else around the world who helped make this revolution successful. Apart from our very own Fresno community, we have also apart from our very own Sikh American community, we have in our attendance today those who have stood by our side this whole time. I would like to welcome Congressman David Valadao for being one of the very first members of Congress for voicing your support in the farmers' protest. I would also like to acknowledge Dr. Iqtidar Chima, advisor to the United Nations, who worked tirelessly to raise our farmers' concerns on the floor of the General Assembly of the UN. Additionally, we have our very own Fresno Mayor, Mr. Jerry Dyer, who has always supported the Sikh American issues, and Madera Mayor, Mr. Santos Garcia, who wrote a letter to the Ambassador of India to the United States expressing his solidarity with our farmers. We will also have Dr. Virendrapal Singh from Punjab Agriculture University, Ludhiana, who, as many of you probably are aware, has been working day and night to help the families of those 800 plus farmers who lost their lives during the struggle. He'll be here later on today. Fresno County Board of Supervisors Chairman Brian Pacheco and Supervisor Mr. Nathan Megsig, Steve Brando, along with our police chief, Mr. Paco Balderrama, are also in attendance today. We're joined by Fresno City Council members, Mr. Nelson Esparza, Mr. Luis Chavez, and Tyler Maxwell. As we have many of our local elected officials present here today, we would like to take this opportunity to raise the issues that are affecting the Sikh community as well. Sikhs have been an integral part of American history for over 100 years now. There are more than 30 million Sikhs around the world, and over 700,000 of them live here in the United States. And more than half of those live in California alone, and we have about 50,000 Sikhs who live in the Fresno County. Some Sikhs embody the quintessential American story. Like the Irish, Italians, Chinese, Portuguese, and many other communities before us, Sikhs immigrated to this country seeking a chance to build this better life for their families through hard work. We helped build the Transcontinental Railroad, served in world wars, stood at the forefront of the civil rights struggles, and were among the first responders on 9/11. In modern-day America, Sikhs are entrepreneurs, farmers, lawyers, doctors, gas station owners, leaders in the trucking industry, and hold many high-ranking positions in the government. Yet, despite our immense contribution to society, Sikhs continue to experience an immense amount of discrimination and hate in modern America. Sikh Americans have been particularly vulnerable to hate crimes and mistaken identity attacks since the 9/11 era. In the years since 9/11, hate crimes against Sikh Americans have risen exponentially. In 2012, in Oak Creek, Wisconsin, six Sikh Americans were killed. A 2014 study showed that vast majority of Americans, over 70%, knew little to nothing about their fellow Sikh Americans. Over 95% of Americans have never heard the name Guru Nanak, the founder of our faith. In the same study also showed that more than half of Sikh children endure bullying at school, and the numbers are far worse for children who wear turbans. 2 in 3 turban children report being bullied in school, and more than double the national average in America. That is why the Sikh American community would like to ask the city of Fresno and the county to build a Sikh Heritage Museum. Additionally, we ask that a Punjabi Community Sports Center will be built that will help provide health, education, and social services for our community. Last but not the least, as we're all aware that playing sports can help prevent youth from substance abuse issues, this is why we're asking the city or the county for a field hockey ground or indoor volleyball court. Let me briefly say why are we requesting these individual resources. Firstly, bullying of Sikh American children ultimately stems from the lack of awareness and exposure to Sikh identity. Due to misunderstandings of differences, Sikh children are vulnerable to harassment and bullying, which can have profound and lasting impact on their self-esteem and mental health. Children are an especially resilient and curious group, which is why an early exposure to different religions and beliefs can keep them open-minded. A Sikh Heritage Museum would showcase that the core beliefs of Sikhi, the Sikhs believe in that all men and women are created equal, and the right to practice religion freely is encoded in our scriptures. Sikhs stand against injustice and inequality wherever that exists. Just like the core American values, Sikhs do not discriminate on the basis of gender, race, caste, creed, or religion or color. The importance of various physical attributes such as a turban, long hair, etc., can provide a historical account of the contributions to America. The Sikh Heritage Museum would serve as a bridge in helping young children be exposed and educated on the history and beliefs of the Sikh culture. This would benefit both the Sikh and non-Sikh children by creating an inclusive environment where the differences between are celebrated and respected. Secondly, community centers offer language interpretation services, financial resources, health education, and are more than integral part of any strong community. Many Sikh elders do not speak English, which can be a barrier in getting most resources. A community center support will provide them with various services that would help them be contributing members to society and empower them to be self-sufficient and independent. Lastly, one of the most important factors in preventing a youth substance abuse is having a sense of community. Building a recreational area that allows the young generation to engage in various physical activities will help them build a connection with each other and buffer against developing drug addictions. Engaging in organized sports is a way to ensure that the youth are building a sense of community. We're hoping that our community leaders can provide us the physical sports infrastructure that will ensure that the youth are provided with opportunities to build social connections, maintain their physical health, and be prevented from falling victim to substance abuse issues, which we know have unfortunately affected way too many communities. Ultimately, the only way to prevent violence and hate crimes against Sikh Americans and our children is to make our fellow Americans more knowledgeable about who we are and where we come from. In order for this to happen, we ask that those who are in charge and ask us to give us your full support in order to make these changes happen. Finally, it's critical to recognize that the raising kids' cultural awareness through education must also happen outside the classrooms. And for now, I'd like to introduce my co-host for the evening, Mr. Raj Pandu.